Academia is such a strange place. It's so Orwellian, and I've had conversations over the years, and I've talked to people in academics. Sometimes when it comes to even psychedelics, and they said, "I can't talk about that. I'll lose everything in there." And I think we have our experiences at university, and we just think that there's all this, everyone doing good there, but it's a very treacherous and dangerous place to be if you speak out.
It's a very treacherous and dangerous place to be because particular theories, and I think it's probably true across all the sciences, but I think it's particularly true with archaeology. And there I have to raise a question mark over whether archaeology is rightly defined as a science at all. I'm not sure that it is a science because there's so many things about it that can't be tested in scientific ways. Basically, what archaeologists are doing is they're dealing with relatively small amounts of material that are dug up out of the ground from relatively small amounts of sites. And they are then drawing conclusions from that, which are their conclusions, which they then present as a narrative, which magically transforms into statements of fact. These are not statements of fact, they're statements of opinion based on a particular interpretation of a particular set of artifacts. That's what we're dealing with archaeology, and I don't think that that's science. Particularly so when it comes to prehistory, when it comes to the time of the Ice Age. Really, you move from the domain of archaeology into history the moment that you start having written documents. When you have written documents that have survived, if you can translate those documents, and you can't always, we have never translated the Indus Valley script, for example, but when you can translate them, you can begin to get a fair sense of how history was unfolding at that time. But from a time where no documents have survived, from the Ice Age, you're dealing with very limited interpretations of very limited data sets. And it's not just the limited interpretation. Archaeology would like us to believe that they have a full enough understanding of humanity during the Ice Age to absolutely write off, without any need for further investigation, the possibility of a lost civilization during the Ice Age. That is the archaeological position. If you actually look at their attempts to refute my Ancient Apocalypse series, it all boils down to, we are archaeologists, we know the facts, Hancock is wrong, go away. Okay. But here's what bothers me about that. There's so much of the world that archaeology has never looked at, or never looked at properly. And I think it's important to give specific examples. One that as I mentioned earlier, I devoted 7 years of my life to scuba diving. That's because of the 400-foot sea level rise at the end of the Ice Age. Now, the best real estate on Earth during the Ice Age was along the coasts. That was the place to be. There were all the resources of the sea to harvest. That was where people would naturally have migrated to. These lands were covered by rising sea levels. And when sea level rises, you have a period of very high energy, the intertidal zone, when the waves are breaking against any structures and they're destroying them and pounding them. What tends to get left is only big megalithic structures. And I followed that up by talking to local fishermen, talking to local divers in many, many places who'd spotted anomalous things, and they took me diving onto sites which are definitely man-made, massive structures under the water. As far as I know, I'm the only person who's ever devoted 7 years to actually investigating the possibility that there are submerged structures from the Ice Age. Archaeology just doesn't do that. They are interested in marine archaeology, but because they don't believe that there's anything interesting to discover during the Ice Age, their primary focus is on shipwrecks from the Middle Ages. And most of the funding for marine archaeology goes into searching for shipwrecks, not into looking for a lost civilization that they don't believe existed. Well, I spent 7 years doing that, and I've produced the visual evidence that there are structures underwater, submerged by as much as 30 meters, in some cases 40 meters. I'm a fairly good diver, but I've never learnt to use mixed gases. It would be nice to get down beneath 40 meters. 40 meters is the maximum depth that you can dive with using compressed air. But we're talking about a 120-meter rise in sea level at the end of the Ice Age. I've been 40 meters down, and I found a massive evidence that for huge structures at that time. So the point I'm making is that archaeology cannot claim to have absolute knowledge sufficient knowledge to write off a possibility of a civilization during the Ice Age, when it really hasn't investigated the submerged continental shelves at all. There's hardly any work that has been done. A little bit now. There's some looking at this area called Doggerland between Britain and continental Europe that was exposed during the Ice Age. But really almost nothing. So there's 27 million square kilometers of the Earth's surface, 10 million square miles, that was highly populated and highly attractive real estate during the Ice Age, which archaeology is not looking at properly. Then there's the Sahara Desert, green during the Ice Age, 9 million square kilometers. 9 million square kilometers, that's bigger than China. 9 million square kilometers of the Sahara Desert. Hardly been looked at by archaeology, even though we know that the climate of the Sahara Desert was congenial and attractive to human beings. There were huge lakes and river systems in the Sahara Desert during the Ice Age. How can they possibly claim to have complete knowledge, or let us not say complete knowledge, to have sufficient knowledge of the past to be able to write off any possibility of a lost civilization during the Ice Age, when they haven't looked at the submerged continental shelves, and the archaeology that's been done in the Sahara is absolutely minimal? And that leaves one other area, which is the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest, 7 million square kilometers. Tragically, there's only about 5.5 million square kilometers left that are still under dense canopy. Almost no archaeology has been done in those 5.5 million square kilometers. New findings from LiDAR, light imaging and detecting ranging, looking down through the canopy, is finding enormous structures under the canopy, evidence of huge cities that once existed in the Amazon. Up till now, very little archaeological follow-up. Archaeologists are very keen to follow this up, and I hope they will. And I think that extraordinary facts about our past that have been hidden from us are going to emerge from the Amazon when the archaeology is properly done. But meanwhile, for archaeologists to say that they've got the past nailed and they can be absolutely sure there was no lost civilization during the Ice Age, I think they need to do more work in the Amazon rainforest, in the Sahara Desert, and in the submerged continental shelves. That's a huge area of the Earth that archaeologists never looked at all. And I'm sorry, they're in no position to write off the possibility of a lost civilization during the Ice Age until they actually look.
The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.